You might think this is just a chaotic crowd or an ordinary gathering, but no, this is how people take to the streets to celebrate when the national football team achieves a glorious victory. The image of millions of people pouring into the streets cheering in victory is hard to find in any other country. And that is Vietnam, the small S-shaped land by the East Sea, the neighbor of China. From a country that had to face countless challenges, thousands of years of fighting to defend the nation, high public debt, and a series of sanctions from superpowers, Vietnam has risen strongly, taking control of the game in the Southeast Asian region. It is not just an economic change, but also a clear testament to the resilient spirit of unity, making great nations like the United States and China astonished. So what is happening in Vietnam that even these superpowers cannot ignore? Let's explore in today's video. Don't miss out because there are things you've never heard of. Let's get started. Football is the king of sports in the world, attracting and beloved by many people. Of course, Vietnamese people are no exception. Their love for football goes beyond what we can imagine. Stepping out of the bar, Warren Bissett, an American guy, felt the streets of Ho Chi Minh City ready to explode with the crowd celebrating the ASEAN Cup 2024 championship. People walked in a procession chanting Vietnam as the champion. When Warren stood at the intersection, many people passing by proactively high-fived him as a way to celebrate the victory. Some people brought whistles and banners to distribute to passers-by. They held hands and danced. Warren remarked, "It's interesting how they carry their pride and want to share it with those around them." He had lived in 15 countries before coming to Vietnam, but the way Vietnamese people celebrate victories is very different. According to Warren's sharing, the first is the spirit of unity as one. When the team wins, each English person has their own way of celebrating, but Vietnamese people often go in large groups, creating a massive procession through various routes. They use any available means of transportation such as motorbikes, cars, cyclos, bicycles, and even tricycles. Everyone was very friendly, cheerful, and there were no extreme action at all. In his hometown, whenever there is an important victory in football, fans usually drink a lot of alcohol to celebrate. However, Vietnamese people usually stay sober to hit the streets. Additionally, the British often live in a victorious atmosphere for quite a long time, from a few days to a week, while the Vietnamese usually celebrate enthusiastically but end early, often before midnight. He said, "I'm surprised that some friends went out celebrating almost all night but still went to work the next morning very alert." It can be seen that celebrating with a storm has become an indispensable part of the victory celebration culture of the Vietnamese people. For the Vietnamese, going storm is not merely a form of celebration, it is a symbol of national unity, pride, and a strong aspiration to rise up. The image of motorbikes lined up on the streets, red and yellow flags, fluttering jerseys bearing the images of favorite players waving in the wind, and cheers echoing everywhere. They high-fived each other, chanting the slogan "Vietnam Champions," a sight rarely seen in other countries. The celebration of victory can be compared to major festivals in other countries, but no nation demonstrates such strong and profound solidarity as Vietnam. For example, in the United States, although people also have large celebrations after the victory of the national sports team, the atmosphere is somewhat more segregated, as if only distinct groups of fans participate. In contrast, in Vietnam, going storming is a collective event for the entire society, regardless of class or profession. Whether you are a worker, a student, or a businessman, when the siren sounds, everyone joins in a common heartbeat of the nation. The image of going storm has not only attracted attention domestically, but also made a strong impression internationally. International friends, especially Americans, witnessing these scenes cannot help but be impressed and amazed by the spirit of solidarity and the aspiration to rise of the Vietnamese people. Rice cookers, pots and pans, gas cylinder shells, and even large frying pans from restaurants have been fully utilized by the fans. So not stopping there, some people got even more creative by bringing in seemingly unrelated items like signs or various large and small objects to join in the celebratory atmosphere. So the cosplay performances of Vietnamese fans always leave everyone astonished due to their creativity and humor that is hard to believe. Not only do they stop at dressing up as famous characters or cultural icons, but they also bring unique ideas, sometimes shocking, with their wit and characteristic optimism. Moments like these not only make the domestic audience laugh, but also leave an unforgettable impression on international friends. So before coming to Vietnam, Tony Abbey thought it would be hard to find a place that loves football as much as his hometown. However, after 8 years of living and working here, the Englishman has changed his mind. Tony said Vietnamese people see football as a part of life and pride. This is evident in the way they celebrate by going out in droves. He has witnessed many memorable events in Vietnamese football, especially the final of the U23 Asian Championship, when the Vietnamese team played in a snowstorm in Changzhou, China, in 2018. That was the first time in his life Tony felt overwhelmed by the love for football from a country other than England. Tony feels that Vietnamese people storm the streets to celebrate victories and sometimes defeats as a way to cheer and express their patriotism. The Vietnamese have a habit of uniting and celebrating together in one place, he said, giving the example of many small alleys often setting up TVs in common areas to watch together. Sure, some companies installing LED screens where everyone enjoys the match and celebrates, cheering right at the workplace. Several multi-generational families gathered on the streets, and among the crowd, there were even elderly people. According to Tony, they have spread that love even to foreigners. On the evening of January 5th, when Tony arrived at the pub, he saw that 70% of the patrons were foreigners. They discussed and analyzed the match together. Vietnamese people have shown everyone their love for football and their patriotism everywhere, whether in the stadium stands or on every street they pass through. For those who have never experienced going storming, it is certainly difficult to fully understand its profound meaning. But for the Vietnamese people, each victory is a reminder of their indomitable spirit and relentless aspiration to rise. And going storming, although it may be just a brief moment, it brings boundless faith and pride to every Vietnamese person. The spirit of solidarity during the storm is also reflected in the way each citizen cares for and protects those around them. Even in the moments of wild celebration, one can still see jackets being given to strangers, broken down cars being repaired with assistance, and eyes always ready to share joy together. These are moments when national pride is not just a feeling of excitement, but a deep connection between each individual and the community, between each citizen and the country. Not to mention that even during the storm, they still strictly adhere to the law, especially traffic laws. Look at how the cars line up neatly under the crosswalk, waiting for the red light, just like a painting. The spirit of solidarity during the storm is also reflected in the way each citizen cares for and protects those around them. Even in the moments of wild celebration, one can still see jackets being given to strangers, broken down cars being repaired with assistance, and eyes always ready to share joy together. These are moments when national pride is not just a feeling of excitement, but a deep connection between each individual and the community, between each citizen and the country. But that's still not everything that Vietnam can do. There are many more things that will surely surprise you about this small country. Do you remember the COVID pandemic? If in the US there is a division between social classes, many Americans view the implementation of social distancing regulations as an infringement on personal freedom, leading to protests against anti-epidemic policies. Or in China, the spirit of solidarity in China is somewhat more enforced and organized than voluntary. In Vietnam, however, there is a completely different situation. In this country, the spirit of solidarity during the COVID-19 pandemic was expressed naturally and profoundly. When social distancing measures were implemented, images of people lining up to donate essential goods to quarantined areas, or volunteers stepping up to support epidemic prevention efforts, became deeply moving symbols. So not only is there support from organizations, but also a sense of community spirit, where each citizen is aware of their responsibility towards others, especially those who are less fortunate. Community support activities, from zero dong supermarkets, rice ATM machines, to the distribution of free essential goods. These images show the solidarity and spirit of the healthy covering the weak, a distinctive cultural trait of the Vietnamese people. Additionally, the Vietnamese people are willing to comply with social distancing measures and contribute financially to support hospitals and frontline workers in the fight against the pandemic. Businesses, whether small or large, all participated in producing masks, ventilators, or donating food. This spirit comes not only from those who are well off, but also from ordinary individuals who are willing to share the little they have with those who are less fortunate. Now let's see how they overcome the unusual phenomenon of nature. This is an image of a village bury, and here are the images of that village after 3 months. It's hard to believe that in less than 100 days, they have managed to bring life back to normal like this. In the context of that natural disaster, people across the country united in support of their fellow citizens affected by the storms and floods. A series of charitable organizations, social groups, and individuals from all over the country have organized donations and transported relief goods to the provinces most severely affected. The relief trucks stretch from north to south, carrying not only food and necessities but also love and compassion. Many videos capturing scenes of Vietnamese people helping each other have gone viral. Images of car drivers shielding motorbikes, crossing the bridge in strong winds, people helping each other push vehicles through flooded areas, opening doors to let the homeless take shelter, have been widely shared on social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, WeChat, Douyin, and Platform X, Twitter. Many other social media users have been singing their praises. Some people commented, "This is the reason they have never lost any battle." The solidarity of the Vietnamese people cannot be expressed in words. Another account commented, "A lesson for the whole world on how a person or a nation should behave. I have great respect for why." An account wrote, "This is the humanity and kindness we want to see in the world." Thousands of comments expressed their emotions over the beautiful actions of Vietnamese people towards each other. "This warms my icy heart. In the place where I live, selfishness reigns. Pray that good people are blessed. I'm not Vietnamese, but I still feel proud. Good things always exist like this." The New York Times emphasized that, despite facing great losses, the spirit of the Vietnamese people has not weakened. They are ready to stand up together, helping each other overcome all difficulties. The spirit of solidarity among the Vietnamese people does not stop at moments of storming the streets or during natural disasters, but is also manifested in all areas of social life, from politics and economics to culture and sports. The spirit of solidarity has always been a key factor helping Vietnam stand firm and develop strongly. Vietnam, although just a small country in Southeast Asia, has demonstrated a strong ability to rise and maintain exceptional stable development in recent years. Vietnam has transformed from a purely agricultural economy into one of the fastest growing economies in the world. With an average GDP growth rate of up 6 to 7% over the past decade, the S-shaped country is emerging as a top destination for internal investors, including American and Chinese companies. This development not only stems from Vietnam's strategic location, but also from extensive economic reform policies and significant infrastructure improvements. One of the main factors driving Vietnam's economic growth is the series of strong economic reforms implemented since the late 1980s with the new policy. This policy has opened up the economy, encouraged foreign investment, and transformed Vietnam from a centrally planned economy to a socialist-oriented market economy. In recent years, Vietnam has continued to implement many investment incentive policies, such as reducing corporate taxes, improving the business environment, and accelerating the signing of free trade agreements, CFTAs. The Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CEP, and the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement, EFTA, have helped Vietnam access many large markets, especially the United States and Europe. These policies not only attract large corporations like Apple, Samsung, and Intel, but also create opportunities for foreign small and medium-sized enterprises to enter the Vietnamese market. Political stability, a young workforce, and significantly lower production costs compared to China are the factors that make Vietnam one of the most attractive investment destinations today. In addition, the newly constructed highway network, such as the North-South Expressway, quickly connects major economic centers from Hanoi, Da Nang to Ho Chi Minh City. So this not only facilitates the transportation of goods, but also significantly reduces transportation costs and time, bringing great benefits to international investors. American companies like Intel and Apple have noticed these improvements and have increased their investments in Vietnam. Intel has built the world's largest chip assembly and testing factory in Ho Chi Minh City, while Apple is shifting part of its supply chain to Vietnam, including the production of key products such as MacBook and AirPods. Not stopping there, Vietnam is emerging as a new center of manufacturing and technology in Asia. Many major technology corporations have shifted part of their production from China to Vietnam to mitigate risks from the US-China trade war and to take advantage of lower costs. Not only South Korean companies, but also American corporations like Apple, Dell, and HP are looking to reduce their dependence on relocation by relocating production to Vietnam. This has turned Vietnam into an important link in the global supply chain. Compared to China, labor costs in Vietnam are about 50% lower, while the quality of labor is being improved thanks to skill training programs and investment in education. This combination has helped Vietnam become the ideal alternative for companies seeking more efficient production solutions. Vietnam's strong growth not only opens up new opportunities, but also poses challenges for American and Chinese companies. For American companies, Vietnam's increased competitiveness in the global supply chain has helped them reduce production costs and diversify risks. For example, Apple began producing MacBooks in Vietnam in 2023, reducing dependence on China and taking advantage of the benefits. As for China, Vietnam's rise as a manufacturing hub has created significant pressure. In the context of international companies seeking to reduce their dependence on China, Vietnam is a formidable competitor. Fields such as electronics manufacturing, textiles and home appliances, which have been China's strengths, are gradually being dominated by Vietnam. A typical example is the textile industry. Vietnam is currently the world's second largest textile exporter after China. Many famous American brands like Nike and Adidas have shifted most of their production from China to Vietnam thanks to lower costs and the ability to access the US market through free trade agreements. Vietnam's economic development is not only the result of smart policies and reform efforts, but also a testament to the strong resurgence of a nation once ravaged by war. With impressive growth rates, a plentiful workforce, competitive costs, and a strategic location, Vietnam is emerging as a bright star in the global economic landscape. For American companies, Vietnam is not just a new market but also a strategic partner in the global supply chain. As for China, Vietnam's development is posing a new competitive challenge, forcing them to adjust their strategy to maintain their position in the region. In the context of a still unstable global economy, Vietnam has proven that a small nation can make remarkable strides if it has the right strategy and resilient spirit. Certainly, the story of Vietnam's economic development will continue to attract the attention of not only the United States and China, but also the entire world. Vietnam's strong economic development in recent years has become a noteworthy phenomenon, with high growth rates, flexible policy reforms, and significant improvements in infrastructure. These factors have turned Vietnam into an attractive destination for international investors. Vietnam's gradual replacement of China in certain manufacturing and supply chain sectors not only presents significant opportunities for companies, but also poses considerable challenges for the Chinese economy. Vietnam has demonstrated that a sound policy, combined with resilience and creativity, can lead to remarkable progress. This is not only important for Vietnam itself, but also directly affects the investment, production, and trade strategies of the United States and China in the future. What do you think about Vietnam's development and its impact on the United States and China? Please leave a comment below and join the discussion with us. If you find this video useful and want to stay updated with more interesting analyses on global economics and politics, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.